Good evening, all of you. Honorable Governor Maharashtra, Shri C.P. Radhakrishnan ji, Honorable Shri Eknath Shinde ji, ladies and gentlemen, we had such a feast, both of governance and leadership. Shinde ji, you have stolen the thunder. I am wonder-struck whether I can add anything. I may only repackage it. I recall every moment I spent with Shinde ji, but more when me and my wife went to his residence and had the good fortune to perform puja. His address is remarkably relevant, full of depth, assessment of contemporary scenario and challenges. He speaks of his final experience he has gained from worker to leader. And a leader is always a leader. It doesn't matter in cricket team you play at which number. I am absolutely elated and enriched that a leader has such sacrificial attitude. My congratulations to you. We have amongst us Srimati Hema Deora ji. I was greatly touched because she is privy to the hand-holding which I received as a young parliamentarian from Shri Murli Deora ji. I was elected to Parliament in 1989, and that was a big change. Congress had lost power, and I was a union minister. He was a congressman. He took me to then Bombay, now Mumbai, to Kolkata, and held me and introduced me to people who matter in industry and in Marwadi community. When she revealed this briefly, I had vivid recollection of those days. A man of sterling qualities, Murli Deora ji. Ma'am, your presence matters to us. And I am sure you will have the good occasion to see your son perform in Rajya Sabha. Eknath Shinde ji has sent a jewel to Rajya Sabha. He marks his addresses with due diligence, thorough study, calm and composed. I am sure you will be in chairman's gallery to upload him someday. We have amongst us distinguished members of parliament. Though the audience is absolutely very eminent, and each one of you matters to me hugely. But I don't believe in taking risks, and therefore I must recognize presence of members of parliament. One on the dais, Shri Murli Deora ji, a stalwart of politics in the state and the nation, Shri Ashok Chauhan ji, Shri G.K. Vasan ji, whose father had handheld me in a similar manner as Murli Deora ji. Young, energetic, youthful, but in third term, Shrikant Shinde ji. I hope I don't miss any parliamentarian, otherwise I may suffer at their hands. Sri Raghvendra Singh, President Kotak Mahindra Bank. He is energy capsuled, has great administrative capacities. But what I gather from him, having known him for the third generation, he is full of positivity. I must recognize presence of some who are present here. Shri Ashok Hinduja ji is here. We have Shri Uday Kotak ji. I'll come to Amrita ji a little later because I'll have to. She is much beyond the spouse of the Chief Minister for me. But His Holiness Saidna Sahab ji, Shri Gorang Das, Shri God Gopal Das, they both are from ISKCON. People in industry, Shri Parnav Adani, Shri Neeraj Bajaj, Dr. Panda, Mr. Jalas Dani, and let me tell you, everyone who is present here, I am greatly indebted. But never miss a journalist if he is your friend. You may suffer at his hands forever. I am referring to none other than Sanjay Pugalia, whom I know him for more than 4 decades. We had such a wonderful cricket match, and India is in finals. So why not remember Surya Kumar Yadav? He is known as Mr. 360 degrees. Now, Amrita ji. Amrita ji, you have created a problem for me. Because of a condition I set for Devendra Fadnavis, that I will receive him at Uprashtrapati Niwas only if he is accompanied by Amrita ji. Every time he makes an excuse, please ensure. I would love to receive both of you at Uprashtrapati Niwas, where I have had the great occasion to receive Shinde ji. After having listened to Eknath Shinde ji, the essence of the lecture is already before you. Because he is not academic. He has spoken out of experience, exposure, and more importantly, delivered. Delivery matters. The humility and modesty reflected by him is quintessence of leadership quality. Whatever be your position in the team must win. The object must be accomplished. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I come to the inaugural lecture. It is an absolute honor and privilege to deliver the Murli Deora Memorial Lecture Dialogue, dedicated to one of the finest public figures in politics, who nurtured all his life friendships. He bridged differences and was loved by all. In his life, he missed one thing. He had no adversaries. That was his stature. Murli Bhai, as fondly reminisced by his peers, exemplified public spirit and dedication to worthy societal causes. He was a statesman in the mold of a politician, a rare blend of foresight and pragmatism. From being the youngest mayor of Bombay, now Mumbai, to serving 7 terms in Parliament, he showed deep commitment to democratic values and public service. His belief in dialogue, debate, discussion, deliberation, consensual approach, cooperative approach, coordination are being missed now. Murli Deora ji will always be remembered for his proactive efforts to save the country from the hazards of smoking. He approached the highest court of the land, sought affirmative intervention to secure a ban on smoking at public places. Life of Murli Deora ji was a testament to the idea of leadership, that this idea is not a pedestal but a pilgrimage, a journey of service to the last, the least and the lonely, very effectively projected before all of you by Shri Eknath Shinde ji. I commend, ladies and gentlemen, Murli Deora, a senior parliamentarian, former Union Minister, and his friends for organizing this annual feature as a befitting tribute to Murli ji. The theme, leadership and governance, is indeed thought-provoking, as also of huge contemporaneous relevance. Bharat, home to 1/6 of humanity, is the oldest, largest, and most vibrant and functional democracy. Ladies and gentlemen, Bharat is the only country in the world that has structured democracy, structured by constitution, at the village level up to the national level. Ladies and gentlemen, first I seek to focus on the source of governance in democracy. Our Constitution's preamble indicates we the people as the foundational source and premise of governance. Preamble of the Constitution also reveals purpose of governance being justice, equality, fraternity for all. We must appreciate the contours of we the people, the ultimate repository of sovereignty, a sovereignty which we cannot afford either to dilute or to be taken away. We the people, through electoral platforms, constitute parliament, legislatures, panchayats, municipalities, elect the president and the vice president. The sanctity of this repository of sovereignty is essential for democratic governance. Imagine what will befall us if we are deprived of our sovereignty. The integrity of we the people in the present times is being stressed and challenged. And the challenge is surfacing in multiple ways. Leadership faces a daunting task to preserve and sustain this. Let me advert to some worrying trends. There are many. I am referring only to some. The nation houses millions of illegal migrants, causing a demographic upheaval. Millions of illegal migrants are in this country, making a huge demand on our health services, education services. They are depriving our people of employment opportunities. Such elements have alarmingly secured electoral relevance in some areas, and their securing electoral relevance is sapping the essence of our democracy. Emerging dangers can be evaluated through historical reference, where nations were swept of their ethnic identity by similar demographic invasions. As a matter of fact, there are countries where demographic invasion resulted in complete eclipse of ethnicity, where ethnicity was in complete majority. Ladies and gentlemen, this malaise, far more severe than COVID, is aggravatingly intersected with conversions through allurements, with vulnerable sections trying to be trapped, the marginalized, the tribal, the weaker become easy prey to these temptations and allurements. Faith is your own. Faith is dictated by conscience. Indian Constitution gives freedom of faith. But if this faith is held hostage by temptations, allurements, by making prey of those who are in need, it, ladies and gentlemen, according to me, defacing freedom of faith. The concerning objective behind these pernicious designs is to detrimentally vary and ultimately eclipse we the people identity and secure for themselves majoritarianism position. I am sure no one will disagree. This danger has to be thwarted. This is too serious an onslaught to be either countenanced or overlooked. Just reflect for a moment the change that has taken place in our demography in last 2 decades. Look at some of the areas where impregnable fortress has emerged. I am sure this is a challenge that needs urgent attention. Preservation of pristine integrity of we the people is fundamental to preserving our national identity and culture. Our very existence is at stake if this is not addressed in the right perspective. This menace has potential to emerge as existential challenge and concern to the oldest civilization. Foundations of our culture will be uprooted. National mindset must converge to secure sanctity of we the people. We must work hard to persuade our people to be in the right mindset, to appreciate the challenge, inflame in them a desire to secure the sanctity of we the people, and generate a governance environment that is nationalistic. This very simply strains inclusivity that defines Sanatan over millennia. Look at our historical perspective, our journey of thousands of years. It has always been inspired by a fundamental inclusivity. The power of we the people cannot suffer any sacrilege or dilution. Leadership must engage in overdrive generating national consensus to preserve the sanctity of we the people and work in togetherness, in tandem, to neutralize all misadventures against it. Ladies and gentlemen, our woes and wails don't end here. With demographic disruptions and conversions, organic evolution of demographic character is acceptable, not only in our country, the world over. But when it is different, with ulterior motivation, threatening our very existence, we need to be alive. But the other aspect is, we the people faces onslaughts from within and without. Forces inimical to Bharat have converged to systematically weaken our nationalistic spirit. Constitutional institutions face orchestrated public ridicule as part of political strategy. Even the presidency isn't spared, tarnishing institutions, tainting high constitutional offices, especially on foreign land, is against our culture, is against our national interest. Every citizen has the power of social media. I beseech everyone in the interest of this country to be alive to these trends and make contributions. Anti-national narratives gain evil-inspired momentum. Misinformation aimed at destabilizing the nation is rising. We had the painful occasion to see it during COVID. The pandemic that shook the world, then a nation of over 1.3 billion faced it by innovative mechanisms initiated by the Prime Minister. And it was successfully handled. The entire global fraternity has accoladed Bharat, gone to the extent that Bharat, while tackling pandemic at home, lent assistance to 100 other countries. But some amongst us did not spare any effort to run us down. Such category of people who are recipe for chaos need to be exposed. Leadership must navigate this challenge through citizens' mindset response. Friends, Bharat is global beacon of inclusivity and thrives with unity in diversity. This calls for all to prioritize nation first. Commitment to nationalism marks freedom and democracy. No interest, partisan, economic, or personal, can justifiably be the ground to compromise national interest. Ladies and gentlemen, on issues of constitutional clarity, where the Constitution is categorical, our founding fathers have given us the path. On issues like language, common civil code, seeds of dissension are being sown. The response of the government emanates from constitutional prescriptions. We have to work in overdrive to see that these issues that are premised on our Constitution are not politicized to the detriment of the nation. Leadership must seek national consensus and public awareness to sensitize people of the dangers that inhere in such approach. India's civilizational ethos offer a rich repository of leadership principles that predate modern governance theories by millennia. Our Vedic knowledge offers insight for leadership. Leadership in public life requires vision, character, and commitment to nationalism. We have seen what wonders visionary leadership can do in last 10 years. The nation has navigated from a disturbed scenario of gloom to one of hope and possibility. A 180-degree change in several aspects. We must always remember, ladies and gentlemen, we are land of Ved, Upanishad, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and the wisdom therein guides us all throughout. The Bhagavad Gita provides timeless leadership lessons through Lord Krishna's counsel to Arjuna. Yadada charti shreshtam deve tro janah sayat pramanam krute lokst anu vartate. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever his standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. This verse underscores the profound responsibility of leaders because they are naturally taken as torchbearers, role models whose actions shape the course of the society. But a challenge that is coming to society from these people is very dangerous. An informed mind, having held credible positions, trades on the ignorance of people to monetize politically. And that happened on many occasions in last 10 years. People in authority who presided our financial institutions for long had no qualms in indicating to the world that India can never register economic rise beyond 5%. And we had 1.5 times of that very year. On such matters, ladies and gentlemen, our memory should not be short. Kautilya's Arthashastra, perhaps the world's earliest comprehensive treatise on statecraft and governance, offers sophisticated insights on leadership. I quote, "The king shall consider as good not what pleases himself, but what pleases his subjects," unquote. This ancient wisdom resonates with modern governance principles, where true leadership transcends self-interest to embrace collective welfare. We all have seen this development. We need to continue it. Eknath Shinde ji has focused on this emotively, impactfully, and illustratively. Let us reflect on what is there in our civilizational essence and ethos. Vasudev Kutumbakam, Sarvajan Hitaya, Sarvajan Sukhaya. These are the twin pillars of governance from our scriptures. And look at how it translated for the entire world to know during India's presidency of G20. One earth, one family, one future. This was universally accoladed and accepted. Friends, democracy flourishes with expression and dialogue. Abhivyakti or Samvad are its jewels. One is incomplete without the other. Expression complements dialogue and the other way around. If you believe in right of expression without taking note of the dialogue, then you miss the point. In the process, you indicate I alone am right, to the exclusion of every other sage thought. And that is why we have, emanating from our scriptures, Anantavad. This is essential, inalienable facet of good governance. Judgmental response to different viewpoints, differing viewpoints, a point that is different than yours, reflects absolutism. And absolutism has no place in democracy. Democracy requires consensual approach. The other point of view must be considered. And there should be an effort for convergence to an agreed viewpoint. Constituent Assembly debates exemplify this approach. For little less than 3 years, in 18 sessions, Constituent Assembly deliberated very contentious issues, very divisive issues. They took recourse to dialogue, debate, discussion, and deliberation. There never was an occasion for disruption or disturbance. But when we find such a big change taking place, disruption is being weaponized as a political strategy to make parliament or legislatures dysfunctional. This does not augur well for health of democracy. And in some situations, it may pronounce death knell of democracy. If these temples of democracy do not perform constitutional ordainment, then people in the country are bound to be concerned and worried. I, as Chairman, Council of States, express my deep anguish, and I appeal to people at large, academia, intellectuals, those in business, trade, commerce, and industry, those in media, public servants, to create a mindset to put pressure on parliamentarians and representatives. You perform. Because there can be no vacuum in democracy. If the legitimate platform of debate is dysfunctional, people will take to streets. They have to voice their concerns in one way or the other. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to another challenge. Last 10 years, the nation has witnessed exponential economic upsurge, phenomenal infrastructural growth, deep digitization, technological penetration, unknown before. Global institutions are accolading Bharat as a favorite destination of investment and opportunity. The rural landscape has been revolutionized with every house having toilet, electric connection, pipe water is on the way, gas connection, road connectivity, close by health and education centers. And people therefore have gravitated to politics of development as indicated by Eknath Shinde. In that scenario, this phenomenal success, remarkable success story during the last 10 years brings with it a great challenge. On one hand, no nation in the world has this kind of growth as Bharat has had in last 10 years. India at the moment, on account of this growth, is the most aspirational nation in the world. Imagine a country of 1.4 billion with that kind of demographic dividend getting into aspirational mode. The leadership has to perform. at rocket speed. Because there can be restlessness. And therefore I call upon every person, do not look at the government alone. Your opportunity basket is flattening every day, blossoming. When you look at surface of the sea, or deep sea, or ground surface, or deep ground, or sky, or space, India's performance has increased your participation. Blue economy or space economy, you can take to that area. Let me just indicate one facet. If the IMF says, International Monetary Fund, India is a global center of investment and opportunity, certainly it is not for government jobs. And that is why the success story of startups and unicorns, that is much away from the traditional industry succession lineage, should be our guiding factor. Because our economy, that was fragile, part of fragile five, against heavy wind, difficult terrain, navigation, it has reached at number 5. In a year or two, we'll be number 3, a $4 trillion economy. We are on way to attainment of Viksit Bharat at 2047. India, ladies and gentlemen, is no longer a nation with potential. It is a nation on the rise. The rise is unstoppable. The rise is incremental. The rise is sustainable. Viksit Bharat is not a dream, it is our destination. But then, everyone will have to work for it, because to be a developed nation, our per capita income has to go 8-fold. That must happen with participation of all. Good governance requires that we prevent problems, we preempt problems. It is not merely solving a problem. We must have full diagnosis. Why should a problem be there at all? Real-time delivery is quintessential. There was a time not long ago when power corridors were infested with liaison agents, corrupt elements who extra-legally leveraged decision-making. Patronage was password for a contract or a job. But on account of introduction of technology, expeditious service delivery, transparent and accountable mechanism, these power corridors now are fully sanitized. The world is looking up to India for generating transparency, accountability, quick service delivery, people-centric policies in their countries. Ladies and gentlemen, I see one concern, and that concern is across political spectrum. There is emergence of a new strategy, and the strategy is of appeasement or being placatory. Now, election is important in democracy, but not the end of it. Our scriptures have indicated means are as important as the result. And the governments, we are in a state where financial position is very strong. It's financial capital of the country, a global center for business and trade. But some governments, that took recourse to this appeasement and placatory mechanisms are finding it very difficult to sustain in power. But one consequence is very categorical, and those in economics know it. We have stalwarts of economics sitting here. And that is, if there is excessive spending on electoral promises, then state's ability to invest in infrastructure is correspondingly reduced. This is detrimental to the growth scenario. And therefore, I would call upon leadership of all political parties in the interest of democratic values to generate a consensus that engaging into such kind of electoral promises that can be performed only at the cost of capex expenditure of the state. I should not be misunderstood, ladies and gentlemen, because while Indian Constitution has given us right of equality, it does provide in Article 14, 15 and 16 an exceptional category of affirmative governance, affirmative action, the reservation for SC, ST, for those who are in economic weaker section. That is sanctified. Similarly, there are exceptional situations for rural India, for the farmer, where affirmative steps are required to be taken. But this is very distinct from the other aspects I was talking about. This is not placatory or appeasing. It is justifiable economic policy. And therefore, it is good leadership that can take a call where to draw the line in the fiscal sense, in the matter of political foresight and leadership spine. There is another aspect on which we need to focus. National debate is required so that we take note of shift from democracy to democracy. Emotion-driven policies, emotion-driven debates, discourses threaten good governance. Historically, populism is bad economics, and once a leader gets attached to populism, it is difficult to get out of the crisis. And therefore, the central factor has to be good of the people, largest good of the people, lasting good of the people. Empower people to empower themselves rather than empower them momentarily, because that affects their productivity. Our institutions are very critical. Our institutions must continue to be relevant. Political leadership must address declining relevance of institutions due to disruption and divisive politics. We have an example before us, as I said earlier. We have the legacy of our constitution being negotiated through dialogue without acrimony. Today's leaders should consult this spirit. Parliament is much beyond ideological discourse. Its democracy is a temple where discussion should focus on progress and people's welfare. Sliding parliamentary institutions into irrelevance is a challenge to democracy and our existence. It is worrisome when disruption and disturbance are weaponized, as I said. A dysfunctional parliament, particularly in Bharat, that is the world's oldest, largest and most vibrant democracy, is injustice to the people. Our people deserve much better from our parliamentarians. From this sacred place, I urge parliamentarians and legislators to soul search. Democracy cannot function when expression and dialogue are compromised, while citizens must hold representatives accountable. For eternal vigilance remains freedom's price. Institutional perimeters must be maintained. Judicial overreach into executive governance disrupts democratic values. I do not mean to reflect more on it, but I am firm. Governance is the sole prerogative of the executive. And this is premised because executive is accountable to the people, to the legislature. Every 5 years or before, the executive has to go to the people to get their approval. And every action taken by the executive is amenable to legislature intervention. But if this executive function is performed by any other institution, including judiciary, it will be difficult to look for accountability. And furthermore, the wherewithal, the information, the database that help arrive at a decision cannot be available at other institutions other than the executive. Leadership is purpose-driven and not position of power. It has been said in Upanishad, Esa Vasya, Ten Tek Ten Gumbisa, enjoy through renunciation. Our leaders will have to embrace this philosophy. Selfless service in governance by blending India's timeless wisdom with today's needs. Create Tagore's vision. Rabindranath Tagore had said, I quote, where mind is without fear and head is held high. Satyamev Jayate Nanartham, which emanates from Mundaka Upanishad, it says, truth alone must survive and nothing else. The Rig Veda, moving together in harmony principle, must be our North Star. Before concluding, let me indicate two aspects. Democracy thrives on dialogue, not disruption. Policies must evolve on consensus, not confrontation. Irretrievable confrontational stance is antithetical to core values of democracy. These timeless principles must become our governing bedrock and guide the present and future leaders. Adherence to these eternal values ensure Bharat's rise to Param Vaibhav, supreme glory. Lastly, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, architect of India's constitution, his last address to the Constituent Assembly on November 25, 1949, and I quote, and ladies and gentlemen, mark every word he spoke. I quote, what perturbs me greatly is the fact that not only India has once before lost her independence, but she lost it by the infidelity and treachery of some of her own people. Will history repeat itself? He further goes on to add, it is this thought which fills me with anxiety. This anxiety is deepened by the realization of the fact that in addition to our old enemies in the form of caste and creeds, we are going to have many more political parties with diverse and opposing political creeds. He poses a question then. Will Indians place the country above their creed, or will they place creed above country? Then he answers, I quote, I do not know. But this much is certain, that if parties place creed above country, our independence will be put in jeopardy a second time and probably be lost forever. This eventuality we must all resolutely guard against. We must be determined to defend our independence with the last drop of our blood. I feel privileged and honored with your patience, and on the occasion of having imparted the inaugural lecture initiating Murli Deora dialogue, one of the finest human beings, I am personally indebted to him. Thank you so much.